Okay, so what I thought I'd do today is make this cute little Favour box or little treat box. It can be a little table decoration. I was also thinking that instead of putting chocolates or treats in there, you could put one of those little flameless tea lights in perhaps, and you could set that on the table too. Or even just part of your Christmas decorations if you were using the sleigh. What I will do, I have actually drawn out the templates for you for the little box that sits between the sleigh and also for the acetate part as well. So you will be able to make this to suit, and hopefully if you do give it a go, you may well find some other of the images, maybe some of the floral images may sit nicely on this too. Fortunately, when I was working this out, it's really economical on your acetate as well. I've used just one piece, and I've used pretty much the whole piece of acetate to do this, so there's no wastage, which again, when we use something like that, you want to use as much of the product as you can as possible. So I'll show you that in a little bit as well. So I'll put my favourite chocolates in there, but as I say, you can put anything in there. I think even you could put dog treats in there if you want. You could put even little Christmas gifts in there, couldn't you, really? The little table presents. I think would be ideal for weddings as well. So you could put a little flameless tea light in there. You could perhaps put little dried flowers in there to make a display. It's just a really sturdy little box that I think can be used for all sorts. You don't have to use it with the acetate in either. I think actually the way that, yeah, you see, you can always just use the box as is, like this. You can see the way that I've made the acetate, it is actually hollow. You don't need to worry about the top, and you don't need to worry about the base of this, not with this particular thing. Anyway, you can just slot that in there, but there's no reason why you can't use the box as is. I've created the dimensions on the box so that it sits nicely behind the image. It sort of doesn't raise out, but if you do give this a go and you start becoming quite familiar with how it's made, you can also alter the dimensions a little bit. You can perhaps raise the sides here, but to say you can not put in there, but you can even put a proper little chocolates in that way as well, you know. So these are our stencils. So we have the embossing folder, which of course comes with a little die, and I think what I forgot to say before was this is an A6 size, so the stencils are A6, and it actually creates such a cute little image. And I'll just bring in a card that I would have shown you when this was launched. This is one of the little cards. I actually made a card blank using the die with it, but you can see how small that is. It fits in the palm of your hand, so it is such a cute little die. And I think when I was making this and I posted it in the group, I thought this would be ideal for those tiny little cards that little ones take into class. I know card for that. I've gone to town a little bit on this one and actually decoupaged it and whatever, but there'd be absolutely no reason why you can't just create your card blank with it. Let's see, I've kept the spine of the card here. Then just die cut this once, emboss it, put that on the front of your card, and away you go. I've actually just die cut a piece here, just simply, and emboss that. And if you just put that on the front of the card blank and just put Merry Christmas or a sentiment on the front, that would make a cute little card blank, wouldn't it? I thought that's... Now, what I thought I would do this time round, all the inks I'm using are the shimmer inks, a set of interference dyes. Now, I've got 2 from the new release. So I released 2, and then these 4 are from the original set. So this is set 1 and this is set 2. I've swatched these only came to me today, so I've swatched these out really quickly, and I think these will work with these colours really well. So I'm hoping to go for a really sort of vibrant, more fun look for this time. Right, you'll notice that as you stencil this, your image is actually going to be upside down. That doesn't bother me too much, but I've noticed that when Dawn uses her Ultimate 2 now and does her stenciling, she just stencils it this way around. but there's actually nothing stopping you, I guess, if you actually want to have the image the right way round when you're stenciling, that you can turn this right round and have the pegs down here, and that means that your stencil for this particular image will be the right way round. But I have mine up here because it sits on the in the middle of the screen nicely for you, and it doesn't bother me too much that it's upside down, not now that I've stenciled this a few times. So we have our stencil number in the corner here, so I'm just checking that I have that all right, because I've been using the reverse of this stencil this morning as well. So I just wanted to check that I've got these the right way round, and I do. Okay, so the first stencil gives us part of the body of the sleigh, and my thinking was this: I was going to use the new colour. So I've gone pink here, so I want to go blue with this one. I've also stenciled a traditional one in brown, so I'll show you that a little bit later on as well. So I'm using my blending sponges, and I think what I wanted to do, actually using the interference inks too, I just wanted to show you that you can create a whole project with these and that they will blend just as well as the other inks, the blendable inks. So we're going for a completely different colourway this time, so I'm excited to see how this one turns out as well. So we have the body of the sleigh, so I want that to be quite dark. What you can do, you're going then into some of the gifts that are sitting in the sleigh, so you could here, if you wanted, change colour and create these presents in a different colour, or you can use the same colour, it really doesn't matter. What I think I might do, I might swap and change as much as I can for you, just to show you how intricate these images can be. As I say, you can go straight over with the blue, and you can use one colour on each of the stencils and it will turn out fabulously as well. So, but I think sometimes it's nice to see how intricate you can do this. So I'm coming in with the what's it called? The Magic Garden, sorry. So I want to have this green, and I am going to go quite bold on this because I really want this to be like a playful colour scheme. You know, like you have the lime greens and the reds sometimes, which is like the more modern green and red Christmas colour scheme. So that's what I'm going for this time. So I will swap and change with the colours quite a lot, and we'll see how this turns out. And hopefully this will, well, we know also this will have the fabulous mica shimmer too, once it's all dry. So that's stencil 1. So stencil 2, we are also coming in with the detail of the sleigh. So again, I think I will use the same as the, I will use the blue, and I should come in at the base there, and the top. You see, these blend so nicely, and I love this blue. This is one of the new sets, the Opal blush, and it's a real denim colour to it. It's probably one of my favourite blues. I've got a top of a present here, so I'm going to go with the green on that again, just to keep that consistent with what I've done before. Again, it's about throwing as much colour as I can do on this one, just to show you that you can go intricate with your colours. Don't those two look fab together? And once I actually pick that up and start twisting and turning that to the light, that's going to have the micro effect coming through as well, so that'll be a real showstopper. So now we have in this lighter pink section of the sleigh. I've got the shimmer twist here, the teal twist, sorry, and I think I might use that, but I think I might just use that really faintly, so hopefully that'll be a nice contrast with the opal shimmer that we've already done. I'm going to come in quite gently. I don't want it to be too bold, but we get a nice coverage on that, I think. You can equally have gone in with the opal blush on this one too, I think, and just done it lighter, or it's entirely up to you. You don't have to go lighter, you can use the same intensity of colour, but I do like to have that sort of contrast. And I think I might use this same colour, the teal twist, but go bold onto the tops of the presents here. So it does actually look like a different colour to what I've used there. There we are. Look at those colours. I love those two together. They really play off each other really nice, don't they? Okay, so we have stencil 4. Now this is where we start introducing the parcels in the sleigh that you can see here. Now one little tip I would perhaps say with this is go lighter on these colours for this particular layer, because you will be stenciling on top of it and you don't want to deny yourself the chance to put extra detail on top of this. So I would say go slightly lighter. I think I'm going to come in with the fruit salad on this one. This is going to give that real pop of colour, nice contrast colour. So I'm going to go lightish on the parcels, and hopefully if I can go quite a bit heavier and darker on the candy cane that's sitting there. And hopefully what you can see also is that because I am using the sponges and I am still able to get that element of control with the amount of ink that I'm using, and use the rest of the stencil to blot off some of the ink if you need to. You can wash it off later on, but use that as your tool to control the ink when you're stenciling through the aperture there. Ah, look at that. That's fab. I love that. That's worked really well. So stencil number 5, this is where we add that patterned detail to those parcels. Okay, so this, and we also start introducing some of the flowers that are on the back of the sleigh here. But initially I'm going to focus on these parcels, and this is where I want to come in dark now, because we want to layer over what we've just done. So we want these details to really stand out. So if you have stencil brushes that you use with your interference inks, then these would be great to use at this stage. But you really can just use your blending sponge. I'm just making sure that I really layer that on, because I want that to be as intense as possible. So I shall put that one away. Now I want to layer the green dots on top of the green parcel. So I'm coming back in with the Magic Garden and going as dark as I can onto this part of the stencil. So you will see that I'm actually using 3 colours on this stencil. So this is where you can have so much fun with all your inks. And I think at this stage possibly more is more. I know we say sort of choose a limited palette when you're sort of stenciling, and I think that does stand true when you're using or stenciling the flowers, but I think Christmas, you can throw everything at it. Now I'm coming with a 3rd colour, and I just want to use the teal again, just to go into the top of this parcel here, and just really darken that so we've got some detail on the top of that. Okay, so if we pull that away, you can see now that we have the detailing on top of the parcels. We have the polka dots and we have the checks, and that looks really fab. It looks, I don't know, to have such small intricate detail on through a stencil on an image like this, I think is fantastic. Right, tell you what I did forget to do though, didn't I? So I'm going to bring my stencil back in again, stencil 5. I forgot to start the flower, didn't I? So what I'm going to do this in yellow. So I'm going to see what ink I have on the sponge already, which isn't too much. So I'm going to bring in the Sweet Treat. So I want this to be yellow. And again, so you'll see here, so I've used 1, 2, 3, 4 colours on this stencil. There we are, so make that nice and bold. And we use stencil number 6. So now we can see that we're actually finishing off the sleigh with the actual sled part of this. So I think I want a real contrasting colour for this now, and this is where I'm going to use this new Regal grey. when I swatched this out, I thought, oh, this is going to be one of my favourite colours. I do like a grey. And I shall use this on the bottom. So it's a lovely neutral, and it's a real proper grey, if that makes sense. It's a real grey that's going to sit really well with every colour. The interference colour on this will be the purple, so when you use this on a black card it will be purple. So I suppose there is an element of that coming through, but I don't know, it just sits really nice. Now we have a little pine cone that sits here, and I will do this really lightly in the grey. We have extra detail going on top of this, so I don't want to go too dark on this stage, or at this stage. We need to finish off our candy and the bows of the parcels here. So I think what I will do, we've already got the red of the candy cane, so I'm actually going to use the green. Come back in with the, should I use green or the teal? Now this is what I mean, you're going to be really indecisive with what you're going to be doing. Now I'm going to use teal, and I'll tell you why. Because, oh no, I've got too much blue. Right, I should have tested this out, shouldn't I? Right, I'm going to go green on the candy cane, because I think that will sit really nice against the red that's already there. We want the bows of the parcels. I will do that in the green because that will look nice with that pink. So I will go into that, and I'm going to come in as bold as I can on that because that will sit really prominent. Oh, I'm terribly indecisive, and I'm pretty sure that you're all the same actually. So I say the hardest thing for you is stenciling this will be choosing the colours. There we are, that's looking really fun actually. I'm wanting this to look really bright and vibrant, so this is actually turning out looking to look the way that I was hoping it would be. So stencil 7, we start coming into the little floral display that is on the sleigh here. So there's two elements of this. You have the leaves that you can see here, and then you have the tops of the berries. So again, there is two colours that need to go on. You don't have to, of course, I mean that is entirely up to you, but I am using two colours. So I'm going to come in with the fruit salad. I don't need to put extra ink on the sponge, so I can do the berries there. And then I will come in with the Magic Garden because this will be a lovely vibrant green for these leaves. And sitting against the teal of the sleigh, I think that's going to look amazing. So we can make sure we've got plenty of ink going through there. Stencil 8 again is just adding more foliage to that, so you can either come in with a different green or the same. I think what I might try and do is I'll use the same green but just make it darker. And if you wanted to add a little bit of shading actually to that green, what might actually be a good idea is come in with the Regal grey, probably just what's the ink that's on the sponge already, and just try and add a little element of shadow. All I'm doing is just brushing up. I'm not going over the whole image, I'm just brushing upwards. So it's just catching just the edge of the aperture basically. So that should add a reasonable amount of shading to make it look different to the green that's there already. So the last stencil is adding the detail in to finish off the floral display there, and I will use the Regal shimmer for that, and I will come in quite thick or quite heavy on that because I really want that to stand out. So that just finishes off that little display perfectly. Now I'm looking at that and we haven't got the detail on the rose. I think I forgot to put that in. So I'm just flicking back through the stencils and I'm just looking for this detail of the rose here that sits in the middle. I did miss that before. So I'm just going to add that in just gently with a little bit of grey. So it's almost just going to be a shadow. So we've got the detailing of the rose in there. So that is the stencil or the sleigh stenciled really quite intricately actually, with lots of colour going on. So let's turn that around. And how fun does that look? What I will do now, I will bring in ones that I stenciled earlier on, which has got, again, I stenciled these with the interference inks, but I chose much more traditional colours. But you can see now how different that can look. We have the real fun image that you would possibly put on a child's card, or if you've got, depending on the theme that you've got for Christmas. I mean, I'm really generalising quite a lot there, but you can make it look fun, or you can make it look really traditional. And then you have the pink also. So what I would do now, I won't do it now, but then you would obviously die cut your sleigh. And once you've done that, you know how easy it is to line up in the embossing folder and create the detail on that. So actually what I will do, thinking about it, I'll show you the colours I used for these. You can probably work out the greens and the greens and the pinks on this are rhubarb jam and evergreen. Eucalyptus leaves and rhubarb jam, but the actual sleigh I stenciled with warm chestnut and royal truffle. Sorry, it wasn't galaxy truffle, was it? Yeah, royal truffle and warm chestnut. So they gave you the real nice wooded traditional colours on those sleighs there. Right, so now we can go on to the construction of the box. So I have a couple of templates here. I will take a photo of these and I'll make sure that these are readily available for you to see when you re-watch this back on YouTube. It is quite straightforward, but what I wanted to do when I created the box was to make sure that the height and the depth stayed within the bounds of the image. So if you were to obviously look at the box this way, the workings of the box were hidden, and it didn't sort of come up and rise above and distract from the detailing of the presents. Obviously you can see it around here and you can just see how well that sits sort of with the level of the sleigh there. So that was my thinking behind that. This is the box template. So you will need a piece of cardstock which is 14.5 centimetres square, which would work out at 5 3/4 inches square if you work in inches. This is the box that I've already cut out, so I've used a good sturdy cardstock for this. I haven't used Lisa's cardstock because I didn't want to waste it in creating a box, to be honest. So I've just used a real nice heavy cardstock, which probably, I don't know, it's probably about 280, 300 GSM, but something quite sturdy. And you can see if I lay that over the top there, these shaded areas are the bits that you cut away. So we have a 14.5 inch square piece of card. The base of the box is 6.5 centimetres square, which works out about 2.5 inches square. Okay, which you can see here. The sides of the box, because we don't need to worry about the top, the actual side itself is 4 centimetres. So the height of the box here is 4 centimetres and obviously the width is 6.5. You need to make sure that you add the tabs at the sides so that you can attach the sides of the box together. When I glued this one together, I did actually use a wet glue because I had the time to sit and hold it just to allow the glue to take for a minute or two. This time around I'm using the red liner tape purely because it's easier while you're watching me. So you take your square of card here. I'd say I've given you the dimensions. 4 centimetres in, you'll need to score it down the side, okay? So you score down at 4.5 centimetres. 6.5 centimetres in, you'll score down again, and that will leave you with another 4cm side here. Then you need to do exactly the same. Turn or rotate your piece just a quarter turn, and again you measure 4cm, score all the way down. Another 6.5cm in, you'll score all the way down. So if I turn this around, you will see that you have 4 score lines. You then take your scissors and you cut along these dark lines here. To cut the tab, all you need to do is just come in 1 centimetre, 1/2 centimetre, it's entirely up to you. And just score down to each corner. And what you would do, you would actually cut from here to here. Just to make this easier, I shall show you. You cut straight down there, okay, down to that solid line, and you do that all the way around, and then you cut out your triangles that way around, as opposed to sort of coming in, turning your scissors, and then turn your scissors again. And then you can take your scissors and just cut straight along that line to the corner, and that takes out that piece. So it's really straightforward, and you end up with your box template. Again, you can then use your adhesive of choice. Actually, if you find it easier to use a liner tape, then do, if you've got a nice strong one that you can excuse me, rely on. But make sure each of the sides have got a good score line on them and that you've folded them, and then you can just go round, and as straightforward as that, you have the box. I think it's a nice easy box to make because we don't have to worry about a lid, to be honest. So that is the base that we can now use to attach our sleighs to on either side. Now this time round I've stenciled the sleigh. This is the traditional way round. Stenciled it, die cut it and embossed it, so that can sit there. On this side, if you want the sleighs to be facing in the same direction, you need to stencil this sleigh with the reverse of the stencils. You then emboss the image, which then gives you the option to die cut, because obviously using the reverse of the stencils it won't die cut. But if you emboss it first and turn it over, you can then die cut on the unstenciled side. So when you turn it over, you have the colour. I have done videos on this in the past, so hopefully that makes sense. That's if you want the sleighs to be facing the same direction. I don't think you necessarily need to, because on this one that I made originally, I just stenciled, die cut and embossed the sleighs regularly on both sides, and they're facing different ways. You see, so we have this one facing this way, this one facing that way. I don't think it really matters, but it's entirely up to you. So that's our box, and you can see now how the box sits neatly behind the sleigh, so you still have the contour of the presents on top of that. I mean, that could be your project as is like that. If you don't have the acetate, or you don't want to use the acetate, or if you just want to make the boxes really quickly, then that is a really nice little project. As I say, you don't have to even stencil the sleighs. You can just purely cut them out of any cardstock. I've used Lisa's satin cardstock here and just embossed it, and that could sit itself on the side of the box also. So I think that would work if you was making lots of these, or if you had a planned project. So again, that is another way to do that. So all we'd need to do with this is to glue our sleighs onto the side. Try and make sure that you line up the bottom of the sleigh with the bottom of the box, so it will sit nicely on the table. Another way to do this is to actually put the glue on the side of the box, then you know you're not going to have any unused or exposed glue on the reverse of the sleigh then. So we have our box sitting there like that. Just make sure that that's pressed right down. I use glue, but again you can use 3D foam or red liner tape. That would work equally as well. So we have our little box. So now when it comes to the acetate insert, and we use our acetate template. So we have our sheet of acetate, which we then want to cut directly in half. So we have our two pieces like so. Now we want to use our score tool, and we can fold our template in half. So now this relates to each half that we've got of our acetate. We need to score the acetate in two places, 6.5 centimetres in, and then 6.5 centimetres in again. So we're scoring at 6.5 centimetres and 13 centimetres. And this extra tab that we have here is what we use to attach the two pieces together. So we need to just shape this part. So we don't need a template for that. We can just take our scissors and just cut diagonally, just cut a section off of there. And what that does is when we come to attach it to the next piece of acetate, it means that nothing is popping up over the top and the lines sit nice and flush with each other. So we need to make these score lines on each piece of acetate. So I've done it on one here, and you can see it's a really thick acetate actually, so you do need to work at it a little bit, but don't let that put you off. It does, you know, it does eventually sort of come into place. So we need to take our score tool. Where is that? So it sits in our bottom of our in a minute. So take our score tool, and at 6.5 centimetres we need to score. Now what you will find you'll need to do is do this a good couple of times. And what you'll see is you'll start seeing the acetate itself actually bending upwards, so it's starting to get that memory that you want it to fold here. So once it's done that, just pick it up and just start teasing it into place like so, and just take your time with this. Did I take the back? No, I haven't taken the backing sheets off yet, Dawn, because I was handling an awful lot. I didn't want to get too many sort of fingerprints and everything over that at the moment. I actually take the backing sheet off in a second. So we've scored the first line at 6.5 centimetres, then we need to come across to our 13 centimetre mark and we score again. And we do exactly the same, and we see that the acetate just start to rise a little bit. So once that happens, we can take that away and we can start teasing that in. You can, or you will find that when you're scoring this acetate, it doesn't crack and it doesn't create any unwanted white marks on there. It won't create like a really crisp fold until you actually take it into your fingers and start sort of really folding it in. If you find it easy, you can of course use a bone folder just to burnish that down as well and create a crisper fold if you find that you haven't quite got the strength in your fingers to do that. So that's fine. So now I will just do that on this one as well. So we'll just fold that down, and I will bring this back in actually, just so you can see what I'm doing. So we can use a bone folder down there like this also, you see, and that just gives us a really nice crisp fold. So now hopefully you can see where I'm going with the box shape here. So on this second piece of acetate, I do need to just shape that and take off those corners. Okay, right, what you can do also, if you find that this flap is just perhaps a little bit too big for you when you put this together, or you don't like the look of it, you can just take a trimmer or a pair of scissors to that and just trim that down to size. At this stage, that really doesn't matter. This is just the tool just to make sure that you can attach the two pieces together, so you can actually reduce the size of that. Now, what you might want to do at this stage is to take off the backing sheet, which I think I might have already done on that one. I know I've done it on one piece here, but now I find that now I've handled this, and I'm not going to be putting too many sort of more fingerprints over this. This is when you can start removing the backing sheet. So even now you've scored this, that backing sheet really does come off nicely, and you can see the beauty and how lovely this acetate is now. Now, I've found the easiest way for me to attach these two pieces together was with red liner tape. So what you would do, you would add your red liner tape to the tab there. Just take this one off. Just stick that down. So now, because I'm using quite a thin tape here, this tab really is probably just a bit too thick, so I'm just going to snip that down with a pair of scissors. You can use a trimmer. It does actually work in a paper trimmer. I use the Tim Holtz guillotine, and this acetate really does trim nicely with that. So now what we want to do, we want to obviously attach the two pieces together, and again, because we're sitting this on the inside of the box, we didn't need to worry about a top or a bottom to this box, which are another reason why I was so impressed that the dimensions of this acetate, the A5, worked so well. It wasn't planned, because the project actually came together by initially stenciling the sleigh once, and then I stenciled it again. I thought maybe I could attach them with the box, and then the acetate really did come last, so it wasn't planned actually, it was just like a happy accident. So now I've just exposed a little bit of the tape there, which gives me a bit of wiggle room at the bottom, so I don't have to worry about it sticking sort of out of place. I'm just going to line that up the best that I can. Make sure that it catches on the top, like so. Now I can actually make sure I've got a tab of the tape here. It's lined up and caught and stuck here, so that on the part where it isn't sticking, I'm just going to line that up, hold it and pull that out, so I know that that does stay lined up when I'm pulling the cover off the liner tape. Hopefully that makes sense. So I do it again here. So I just take off some of the liner, some of the cover for the red liner tape, just attach it a little bit further down so you've got a loop there. So we have exposed adhesive here, but what you want to do is line up the edges on the part of the tape that is still covered. So you're not committing to sticking at this stage. So once you've lined up on this stage, hold it in place. You know that the rest of the edges will they'll fall into place, which means that you can make this part of the edge catch where the adhesive is exposed. Pull the loop from your tape so you have a tab. Continue holding this part here, which hasn't stuck yet, but you know that you want to keep that in place. Keep good hold of that and just pull the liner tape out, and you'll know that your edge will stay in line. And there we have a hollow box, which if I bring in the one that I've made today, that fortunately is quite, flexible enough. So you can sit this into the box that you have already created with your card. So just with a little bit of patience. I've done this a couple of times now and it does go in. So just a tiny bit of manipulation. And so fortunately the acetate is flexible enough at this stage that you can slide that in like so. So now we have a box which is fully able to hold some treats. And haven't I done well with those chocolates sitting there on the side? I challenge you to make this box and have chocolates sitting there and not touch them until after you've made your box. Otherwise you won't have anything to go in there. So hopefully that sort of makes sense, but it really is a lovely little box for you to make. Or I was thinking, why not go in a completely different theme, and instead of using the sleigh, I've just very quickly die cut and embossed the Christmas robin. If you have him, I think he would look super sitting on the side as well. What do you think? I think that would work really, really well. What you could do, you can still line him up. You could possibly just take off the details from the bottom there. Nobody would know the difference. And you can have him sitting on one side or both sides. It would look lovely for a wedding as well, I think. Or you can have him on one side, you can have a sleigh on the other side. Perhaps even try it with the embossed Christmas trees as well that we have. So I think that this dimension of the box will work for all of those designs as well. So hopefully that's made sense to you. So thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. Take care everyone. Hop onto YouTube when this has sort of gone on there, and if you're not already a subscriber, then do please hit the subscribe button, because there's a whole host of different videos on there, and we are trying to cover all of Lisa's different sets as well. So it'll be, you know, it's a fantastic library for all the new crafters that are joining us. Enjoy your afternoon everyone, and I shall see you Thursday. Take care.